So welcome back to Room 1-on-1, and it's Champions League in the agenda again, but we're on the road, and it's Poland for Ukraine top boys Shakhtar Donetsk. So to help me look at this interesting tie, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Andrew Todos of Zorya Donetsk, the home of Ukrainian football in English, to the show. So, well, Andrew, how are you, pal?
Hi, Scott. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Looking forward to this one. I think we've been chatting for a good week ahead of this recording and didn't really know how Shakhtar were going to perform in their opening match. But now that they have done and they got a win, slightly more optimistic going into the game in Warsaw than I was probably a few days ago.
Oh, that's mega interesting. I'm looking forward to coming to that chat then. So before we kick on, tell us a bit about yourself. Right, so I only got your name, Andrew. So I've been dealing with you, Andrew, and eventually I see your second name, and then it all kind of fell in. But tell me, Andrew, tell me a wee bit about yourself. Tell me about how you get involved in this, your Ukrainian football, your family and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I'm a British Ukrainian, born in London, but have Ukrainian family and have been following Ukrainian football my whole life. Really, then about 4 years ago, in 2018, I decided to start my sort of social media and website, Zorya Donetsk, which is essentially an English language source for Ukrainian football because it was very hard for people outside of Ukraine and people that don't understand Ukrainian or Russian to have any sort of comprehension of what goes on over there. So I started that. And then during COVID, with a couple of friends, Adam and Ray, we have started a podcast that we've been doing for the past 2 years called Ukraine Plus Football as well.
Right, brilliant. So, first of all, what would be your team then?
To be honest, I have always been a fan of Dynamo Kiev just from young, and they are the sort of big team that everyone supports in the country, more or less, like over 50%, etc. However, since I've been with this sort of working in media, doing a lot of journalism over the past 4 years, and so I've drifted away from really supporting any side on a sort of level, just because, you know, you learn the ins and outs, you learn more about the owners and all that kind of stuff. It sort of disenchants you, sadly. But I'm not too depressed about that. I'm fine by that. I back all the teams in Europe, etc. And sort of the main team that if anyone ends up losing, it's just I get depressed when a Ukraine national team lose a game. So luckily that's only a few times a year, so it's not too detrimental on my on the weekly basis.
Good. That's interesting. So, see the two fellas who ended up doing the podcast with you, are they just friends of yours that kind of took on your interest, or are they Ukrainian background?
So Adam's an expat. He was living in Ukraine for like 10 years, teaching English and stuff, and he loves a bit of football. Sheffield United fan. And
he says he loves football, and then he says Sheffield United.
There you go. And so he was sort of, it was his idea really to get a pod together, and he called on me and then Ray, who he worked with as well. And Ray is from Ukraine, lives in Kiev, but supports not Dynamo, but he supports Obolon Kiev, which is like the slightly smaller team in the capital, and they're owned by the local big brewery. So yeah, we got a good dynamic. We've interviewed loads of people over the past couple of years. Serhii Rebrov, a number of players. We've had Clive Tilsey on our podcast and other random stuff like that. So yeah, it's been good fun. Just a shame that obviously the past 6 months have been a bit more difficult. We don't post as regularly as we probably used to, where we tried to go weekly and stuff. Now everyone's got slightly different schedules and everything going on, but still at least try and get 1 to 2 pods out a month. So fantastic. Yeah,
that's mega interesting. Mega. You must, I mean, to come back to your kind of original point, try to get a hold of Ukrainian kind of like English speaking stuff. It's kind of hard going. So when I found you guys, I was delighted. So I dare say you must get hit up constantly, have you, British media now?
Yeah, I can't lie, it's been busy over the past 6 months, probably the past year, really, when, Ukraine got to the Euros and everything else. So, yeah, it's been an experience, to say the least.
Good. That's brilliant. Okay, right. So, as with these pods, they're a wee bit different from my usual ones. But first off, last season is pretty redundant, what with the invasion of Russia and most foreign players choosing to depart the clubs. Throw in that we've only really fucking played one game. So I suppose that kind of, the World Cup's so fucking annoying me. I'm having to squeeze all these things in, right? So we'll talk about how it went last season anyway, just to kind of get a broad scope of Shakhtar as a club, because we're basically talking about, like you say, Dynamo Kiev would be the club that everybody knows, the history of Rebro, Shevchenko, and then going back to even my dad's day when they played Celtic back in 67, should I say. But Shakhtar Donetsk is the biggest team to do it. That'd be fair to say. So the league season kicked off on the 24th of July and ran through to the 11th of December. 18 matches played. Shakhtar Donetsk won 15 games from their 18, losing only once. I apologise for this. Right, losing only once to Alexandria, 2-1 in match day
good
3.
stuff. Yeah.
2 draws with Minai, and 0-0 with Dynamo Kiev. Meant the Ukrainian League went into the winter break 2-point clears of Kiev in top spot. 49 goals scored, only 10 conceded, plus 39 goal difference, and looking absolutely great. They'd also played Chornomorets Odessa away in October in the round of 16 of the Ukrainian Cup, a 3-0 win, setting up a tie with Lviv in the quarterfinals to play in March. Ukrainian Super Cup was already in the bag, a 3-0 win over Dynamo Kiev in September, which all of that together shows you how dominant I think Donetsk are, or Shakhtar are, in the Ukrainian League. Right, so, aye. So,
Yeah.
in Europe, right, sorry.
No, I just wanted to add, yeah, they were pretty dominant, and because obviously the league ended in December, they were, and the fact that it never resumed meant that they were actually awarded de facto champions, but never given a trophy.
Right, they've never been I suppose it started fucking recently. Right, so I never knew they actually get awarded the Kaya. That's good. In Europe, as a result of finishing second the previous season, Donetsk played Genk in the third qualifier of the Champions League. 2-1 wins saw them advance to play Monaco in the playoff round. A 1-0 win was again followed by a 2-2 draw, home draw, and Donetsk entered the Champions League and were drawn with Real Madrid again, Inter Milan and Sheriff Tiraspol. Now, it's fair to say the tournament was somewhat of a disaster. 6 games, only 2 draws, a 0-0 with Inter and a 1-1 with Sheriff, the only points taken, as Donetsk finished dead last. 6 played, 4 defeats, 2 draws, 2 goals scored, 12 conceded. So, like you said to me a minute ago, you take it kind of disappointed when they lose. That Champions League tournament must have been devastating.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise because obviously going into it, I think everyone thought that Sheriff would end up being bottom, but then they ended up winning against Shakhtar in the first game and then even won at the Bernabeu. So that was a bit of a surprise. Overall, I don't know, they were just a bit lackluster. There was a new manager that came in. He was trying to instill something a bit new. They were trying to play a bit more attacking football. There are a number of new players in, but also some players that may have just sort of got past it. And I don't know, they were playing okay in the league, like you mentioned, but there wasn't much in it at the winter break, as you say, like 2 points. And I think there was going to be quite an interesting second half of the campaign had it resumed, because obviously Dynamo Kiev were also out of Europe. So there would have been no distractions or anything like that. And it may have gone down to the wire, really. However, Shakhtar won that league de facto kind of thing. They were awarded it after the league was postponed and everything. they haven't got the actual championship title because everyone agreed, hey, no one's getting that. They were literally awarded first place just so that the European spots could be confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously that's why Shakhtar are in the group stage now. Actually, thanks to Russia being banned by UEFA in competitions, so Russia had like an automatic spot, and
That's
essentially because they got kicked out, Ukraine got the next spot. So actually, it's sort of
is that right? Is that right?
Yeah,
Because
I
we
think
we were the same position there, so we were like shitting ourselves, and then see when the Russians get flung out. It's sad to say you're kind of cheering because the Russians have been scumbags that you're like, but the Russians get chipped in, we're like, oh,
it was So it was good stuff because I think Shakhtar would have had to start in either the playoffs or the third qualifying round if that wasn't the case. And I think from next season, whoever wins the Ukrainian League will have to do that. Obviously, something that you guys, that you guys in Scotland have got used to over the past decade, and then you've recently just got back with the automatics. So that's essentially the sort of current scenario. After obviously the winter break happened, which normally lasts 2 months, and then everyone was preparing for the restart of the league, which was on the 26th of February, but Russia's invasion, etc., all kicked off on the 24th. So nothing happened. A lot of players evidently left. They used the FIFA special rule where you could go on loan to another club. They'll pay for like your salary for a year or until the end of the season, etc. But the contract at Shakhtar carries on winding down still. So it means that for some players, for example, ones that renewed that kind of loan thing this summer because FIFA extended it, it means that a number of players have gone on loan to other clubs from Shakhtar this summer, and once they return, you could say they're going to have like 6 months left on their contract. Some of them might even be expired, so they're already allowed to do pre-contract terms with anyone, etc. So Shakhtar as a club are losing a lot of revenue. The CEO said that they might be taking FIFA to court because of the ruling. 50 million euros they want off them. We'll see how that goes, whether they'll be successful in that. No idea how that's going to really end up. But obviously, there was no football for a while. So from that end of February until about the end of March or mid-April, all the Ukrainian-based players were in Ukraine, more or less. Other than the ones that had like more than 3 kids, they were allowed to leave. Some of them were like in Romania training with some different Ukrainian clubs when they could. And then they went on this special Match for Peace tour where they went around Europe.
Global tour for peace.
Yeah, they were playing all these friendlies. Obviously, a friendly, it's like good for fitness, but that's it really. So that was essentially all they were doing. Obviously, a few of the big chunk of the team played for Ukraine in those Nations League and the World Cup playoffs in June. But other than that, that was like no competitive football for a good 6 months until the Ukrainian Premier League resumed literally about 3 weeks ago. And as we've seen in the Ukrainian Premier League, it's been a bit of a slow start as well.
Right.
Getting a draw, 2 very narrow 1-0 wins before obviously the game on Tuesday, which I think surprised everyone.
Right, so you kind of battered ahead across, but you covered up exactly what I was going to talk about with regard to the global tour and exactly what happened in Ukraine and stuff like that. Perfect, mate. That's exactly what I was looking for. So I'm going to fire through this, right? This takes a bit, not too long, but just so in the summer, like you said, the date was given. This is when we come back. So Shakhtar and the rest of Ukrainian football all started trading again. Obviously, with those guys who were given, I mean, you look at that, right, and that's all football being football, innit? A thing was done for the right reason, and football managed to bastardise and steal for it. I mean, as in only football can do, because like allowing them to go on loan is good for the clubs and stuff, but it's shit, isn't it? Really, now if you get that to that situation. But I agree. Right, so as you can imagine, there's been a massive turnover in most teams, I would say, right? And I'll try my best to cover everything that happened this year. I'm sure there's loads that kind of overlap here. So if it gets into a bit of mess, I'll try my best. But so first off, just who you spoke about, former Sassuolo manager Robert De Zerbi, who joined the club only last summer, resigned his post due to the conflict and was replaced by Igor Jovacevic, the Croatian former forward. The contracts of Tete and Mayor Solomon was suspended and allowed them to join Lyon and Fulham respectively. Would I be right in saying that they have moved on? They're gone, or are they still on this special loan?
They're on that special loan, but like I
Right.
said, when they come back, there's
There's
nothing to keep them there. Yeah.
You probably want to see them come back. Aye. Right, so Brazilian midfielders Marcos Antonio, David Neres and Fernando all left, joining Lazio, Benfica and Red Bull Salzburg. Even that first line alone shows you the standard of player you're losing there. Ukrainian midfielders Sergei Bolbat and Daniel Iernatento left for Kolas Kovalyva and Bordeaux, whilst goalkeeper Georgi Yermakov joined Alexandria. Brazilian defenders Dodo and Ismaili departed for Fiorentina and Lille. All fees were undisclosed. 5 Brazilians also departed on loan. Defenders Marquinhos Cipriano, Marlon, Vicinius Tobias all left for season loans at Cruzeiro, Monza and Real Madrid, whilst midfielder Maicon and Pedrinho left for loans at Corinthian and Atletico Mineiro. Maicon will return in January, just to come back to what you said. Ukrainian defender Oleksandr Drambayev joined Zolta Varagem in Belgium. Ukrainian midfielders Artem Kolod and Maxim Chek signed for El Paso Lokomotiv in the USA and Sabil of Azerbaijan for the season. Ukrainian forwards Daniel Honkachurik and Denis Svitla Kulev fucking hell, left for loans with Lleida Esporto in Spain. So that's all the outgoings. So, I mean, usually I kind of put it all in one, but the fucking turnover's wild, man, wild. And when you've got guys leaving your club, going to Lazio, Benfica, going to Lille, Fiorentina, Real Madrid, Cruzeiro, fucking hell. And no wonder it goes back to your point where you were saying you didn't know how they were going to be this summer. You know what I mean? It just makes sense. Right. Sorry again, I'll crack on. So incomings. Croatian midfielder Neven Duric was picked up from Dynamo Zagreb. Andrei Totovsky was picked up from Kolos Kovalvika. Alexander Zuklob was signed from Ferencvaros, and Ivan Petjak was signed for Ferencvaros in Hungary also. Petjak previously played for Shakhtar in 2016 to 19. Zukov was at the club from 2014 to 20, coming through the academy, whilst Totovitsky, I apologise, I'm butchering them here, was at the club from 2010 to 2019, but never played a match. Now, massively, late in the final day of the transfer window, Marian Sved was signed, was picked up from Mechelen for an undisclosed fee, and finally, Brazilian defender Lucas Taylor was picked up on a season loan from PAOK in Greece. The 26-year-old wing-back had previously played in Ukraine for the Dnipro in 2021. Right. Like I say, the talent that's left looks massive, and I'll probably be totally unfair here because I don't know any of these guys apart from Algerian. The guys that have come in look like all former players who never made it at the club when it was high up. Fair?
Yeah, absolutely. that's the kind of I guess trajectory they're going on now. They picked up all these players that have been playing in Europe that may have not made at the club in the past due to the fact that the Brazilians were keeping them out of the team.
Mm-hmm.
Now the Brazilians are gone, and you go and get your starting chance. So it's quite an interesting one. But yeah, they've gone to their roots in terms of all the scouting for this stuff. Other than Shred, obviously, who didn't play for the team in the past.
So what was from the guys that have come in? Would there be anybody in there that you went, yeah, that's a really good signing? Because I mean, signing guys for Ferencvaros and Verva, it's hardly big signings comparison with Shakhtar that famously have done in the past.
Yeah, well, I mean, even if you compare it to last summer and the winter break, when last summer Shakhtar spent 50 million on like 3 different players, Lassina Traore, who's the only player the only foreign player who stayed after the 24th of the 2nd from the invasion. He was injured for literally 9 months with an ACL injury, and he's essentially stayed. And you did a post a few weeks ago saying, "I'm staying at Shakhtar out of loyalty. I want to thank them for the rehab that they've helped me over this past year. It's been very difficult, etc." And he scored in the game against Leipzig on his sort of comeback appearance, you could say. But so he's the only foreigner left, and then obviously you mentioned Jurasek and Lucas Taylor who've come in. So there's only 3 foreigners now in the team. Yeah, Zubkov's not amazing, but he'll do for like the Ukrainian Premier League. I think he'll be more than capable for there, and he plays for the national team on occasion. He had quite a good few seasons at Ferencvaros, but then literally maybe last year and a half, he sort of faded away. Not been starting much or something like that. So not entirely sure what that's down to. Maybe the managers over there, etc. So we'll see if he returns to any...
Would he have been at Ferencvaros when Rebrov was a manager?
Yeah, so I think he played in the 3-2, but he didn't play in the 1-0 against Celtic a few years ago. So, yeah, he was involved in that sort of iconic team that made the group stages for the first time in 25 years or whatever.
I try to blank that out of my head.
Jack, he's been playing quite well in that Hungarian league, but we haven't seen much of him in these opening matches, just to say, oh, this guy's going to be very good. I think Shred obviously is the standout signing of the summer, really, for Shakhtar. As we've seen, he's good in pockets. He's got these matches where he literally just runs the game, and then in other matches he's just completely silent. So time will tell to see whether he's consistent.
If I can touch on your Ukrainian knowledge, because I dare say that any player leaves the Ukrainian league and comes to kind of mainland Europe and stuff like that, you'd be kind of on the ball with it. When we signed Marian Sved, I apologise, I can't remember the team he played for, but they were like down the bottom of the league, and he was scoring these worldies every week, these absolute stunning goals. And he came to Celtic and never got a sniff. I mean, he just never got a chance, to the point that none of us know if he's any
what he's capable of. Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean?
It's very weird.
Like, but the thing is, he played in it. He came on. I'm pretty sure it was a European game, and again scored an absolute belter. You were like, fucking hell. But as per in Europe, see if he's not playing and your manager's doing well, then it's the player's fault. You know what I mean? It's I heard he's a prick. I heard he's this. I heard he's that. And then he obviously went on loan, and who went on loan to their manager was going, "Oh, this guy's a pest." Do you know what I mean? And you were like, right, so he must be a dick. But I mean, I don't know. Like you said, you kind of touched on an inconsistent winger, but is he still kind of highly thought of? I mean, he doesn't play for the national team, does he?
No, obviously that's to do with the fact that he has been so inconsistent and in and out of the sides, etc. I think he was literally just making it into the national team just before he left for Celtic, and then it sort of went downhill for him because he wasn't playing. Then he went to McKellen. I don't know. He had an okay loan there, or like here and there, like bits, like where he scored great goals in games, and then he just wasn't in the lineup for like the next 3 matches or something like that. So it was completely, I don't know, maybe he was like homesick or something. However, the main thing that I think that's important to note is that the current Shakhtar manager, Igor Jovicevic, was his manager at FC Karpaty, which he moved to Celtic from. That unit, that partnership that they had, where I think Jovicevic knows him very well when he was scoring all those worldies, etc. every week. He was the manager then, so maybe he might be able to unlock him, work him out from that perspective. And I think he knows that he's got a good chance here, that he is going to be one of the key players. And I think that's something that Fred probably needs, rather than, I don't know, competition or something like that, just to get himself going and playing week in, week out. And, you know, after the 2 goals that he scored in against Leipzig, you could say it's all leading up to the Celtic game, where it's just
definitely. I mean, it's like, what you just said to me there, I was going to say interesting, but I was going to say it's worryingly interesting, right? It's fucking hell, man. I've seen these guys come back and do it numerous times, right? So, aside from the new signings, right, squad-wise, I'm going to pick out guys here, and I'll be my ignorance is going to fly through because I'm just picking big names basically. So you've already spoke about Lassina Traore, who was signed in 2021 from Ajax for around €10 million. So he's a Burkina Faso international, and like you say, respect him for sticking with the team. But I never realised that was him just coming back, and so that's. But Taras Stepanenko is a veteran in the squad. He played 71 times for Ukraine, should I say, and has played 357 games for the club, scoring 24 goals from midfield. He's now 33. Veteran goalie Andrei Pyatov, who also played 450 games and over 100 times for Ukraine national teams. But they're all the big names, right? So they're the guys that I looked at, and I'm thinking, right, sorry, they're the big names. Who's the guys in the team that I should really keep my eyes on? Who's the guys that are the standout?
So, I mean, from the start, Pyatov probably become backup goalkeeper now. He's really old. He's retired from Ukraine international duty last international window. So, you know, he's getting on a bit, and he's been for a while. So Anatoly Trubin, he's the new, I think he's 21-year-old goalkeeper, currently Ukraine under 21 first choice, and he's had a few appearances for Ukraine as well. And yeah, he's probably the up-and-coming sort of new goalkeeper that everyone's looking forward to seeing what will come of him. At the back, obviously, I think the best of the defenders that Shakhtar have got is Mykola Matvienko, left centre back, can play left back sometimes as well. Starting centre back for Ukraine. Very solid, good range of passing, and he's been a stalwart in the team for a number of years now. However, I think the main name probably that everyone should be keeping an eye out for, and sort of the star of the first match day, is Mihailo Mudryk, and he's the left winger. Electric pace, really skillful, great dribbling. The next Ukrainian big thing, really. They call him the Ukrainian Neymar, but he doesn't really like that name because it's comparing himself to someone else. But yeah, he's got it all, really, and I'm sure that loads of Scotland fans would have seen him in his little cameo appearance back in June as well, as much as you guys probably all want to forget about that result as well. But he's something special, really. And this year, as in since the war began and through the friendlies and the way the season started, etc., and that international break, he's properly made a name for himself. He looks like it's going to be a breakthrough campaign after starting last year, but he was sort of maybe a bit temperamental. He wasn't performing week in, week out, wasn't so effective. But now he looks like he's ready to be sort of like the star man in the team, to create stuff, get assists, get goals. And yeah, one to...
Was he like the Arsenal just that window there, was he?
Yeah, so Arsenal apparently linked with him. They didn't actually put a bid in, as far as I'm aware. Okay. Probably will be back in for him in January, and loads of other clubs too. So yeah, Brentford also wanted him. I heard Everton had a bid rejected, and some Bayer Leverkusen too. So he's on the radar of a lot of people. Shakhtar didn't let him go this summer because they asked for like big money for him, apparently up to 50 million euros for. You could say an unproven 21-year-old, but if he continues,
usually doesn't stop an English team, does it?
No, especially if you're Man United and Fred. But yeah, if you want to, we'll see how he progresses in the Champions League, which will obviously be the litmus test this year. But that should hopefully give a bit more backing to what Shakhtar are asking for, because obviously it's been pretty, probably a bit early to be splashing such big money before he properly shows something.
Right. Okay. Right. I'm going to fling out a few names. Right. This is just for my own hilarity. But Valery Bonda, Yokum Konoplea, Viktor Konyenko, Masim Cech, Danilo Sikan, and Oleksiy Kashkuk. All guys at the club or on loan from the club who all won the 2019 World Cup in Lodz in Poland. I was there.
So was I.
Was at that point, and I was cheering you. Were you there?
Yeah.
I was there. I was cheering on Ukraine. That's funny.
Yeah, no, that was it was a good game. All of those players, maybe some of them haven't really lived up to the promise that was expected of them. Kornienko actually got a really bad knee injury last weekend in the Ukrainian Premier League. He's out for 6 months. So really bad luck with injury. He had the bad injury about a year ago as well, which left him out for ages too. So maybe just, one of those careers that is just injury ridden, sadly. Konoplia starting right back now for Shakhtar, seeing as Dodo left. Also, Czech, I think he's been loaned out. Kashchuk as well. So yeah, and Bondad was starting at centre back alongside Matvienko. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they progress. But a lot of that side, sadly, some of their potential hasn't really been fulfilled.
I do infrequently kind of fly back and have a wee Wikipedia look, see how they're getting on. With my hope, like I said, me and my mate went and we kind of decided he picked Korea and I took Ukraine, so it was pretty funny. But see, aside from the guys, who would be the young guys? I mean, you spoke about Mudryk there. Is there any other young guys coming through that tip to be stars? Would you say?
At the moment, I think there's a sort of a quite a young fullback in the team that's not really been featuring, but he's on the bench because he's been promoted from sort of the under-19s. He's called Kozik. Can't remember his first name, but he's tipped for some good stuff. Also, there's a couple of players in the under-19s that look quite good. A guy called Kirilo Sigheyev, who scored against Leipzig in the youth league.
Yes, team.
And yeah, just on the whole, I think there's a bit of a, I don't know, I guess limbo, just obviously as we've seen this past sort of 6 months, that we're not entirely sure what the future is going to bring, with where the academy is going to carry on. Like a few of the academy players have obviously moved to different European clubs across Europe because because of the war, they got to go to all these different countries because they were sort of underage, etc. So there's no guarantee that they might come back and all that kind of stuff. So I think we need to wait and see at least until maybe the end of the year, start of next year, where exactly all those youth stars are going to be.
So that is interesting. Like you say, there is that big bit of limbo. The big bit of limbo, what's actually going to happen. Right, so this season, a few friendlies, a wee tour of Holland, 2 draws and a defeat to Ajax, got a doing off of Roma, and then 3 games in Saudi Arabia, and a 3-0 win over NK Domzali. So league-wise, the season kicked off on the 23rd of August, a 0-0 draw with Metalist Kharkiv, and a famous name. That was followed up by a 1-0 win over Kurvbas Kurvi. Bondarenko with the winner with 13 to go in that game. In the last match on the 2nd of September, they won 1-0 again, this time away from home at Rook Leave. A 79th Connaught player goal, enough to take all 3 points, despite the famous Mudryk being ordered off in the 35th minute. So that leaves him, after 3 games, sitting in 4th place, a joint 4, should I say, 2 points off top spot, and Loria Luhansk fucking hell, these names, man. In the Champions League, they of course kicked off, same as us, against RB Leipzig in Germany. A tremendous 4-1 win on the night with goals from Shved scoring a double. The second just coming straight after the Leipzig equaliser. Amudrik countered himself and Traore with that final goal to round off an amazing night in scoreline. Right. I have watched that highlights. I've seen the highlights. I've not seen any of the highlights of the league. You kind of touched on it earlier. How are they looking, would you say, in general? Because the 4-1 game gives us all heart attacks, doesn't it? Because I've done my research and I'm telling everybody, the Brazilians are away and I've only got this. And then they're all saying to me, fucking 4-1, you say they were lost on it. And I was like, I don't know. So league-wise, and then the reaction to the Champions League win. Because the Champions League win, I've got to admit, for the highlights, Leipzig should get shot for their defending.
Yeah, they were very poor. That's something that really does need to be, I think, mentioned. Although the fact is that because they were quite poor, Shakhtar were able to utilise the counter-attack, which I think they're going to probably use a lot of in this Champions League. And they literally just exploited down the wings. Mudryk, super fast, dashed down that left-hand side, cut it back to Shred. He scored a lucky deflection there. There was a bit of a howler from the goalkeeper on the first one. Mm-hmm. And similarly, the final two were just quick counter-attacking goals. So, I mean, yeah, if Celtic are a bit more coherent in terms of their defence and, you know, slightly more, creative in the final third, then obviously there's going to be a lot more problems. And, you know, I saw some of the game of, obviously, Celtic Real Madrid, and Celtic were doing that, especially in that first half where, you know, there was like hitting the bar, hitting the post and all that kind of stuff. So that'll be really I think it'll be an even game, but it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how exactly Shakhtar approach it, because in the Ukrainian Premier League, usually they're kind of playing against sort of 10 men behind the ball kind of thing, because they're one of the best teams in the league, and it's just like they're playing against very defensive-minded sides, and they have to try and break them down. It's very difficult. And, you know, in the start of this campaign, because Traore hasn't been very fit, their secondary striker, Daniel Sakani, is not the most effective. It's been a bit tough to find goals. But in the Champions League, it's all a bit more open for whatever reason. So, and that gives the likes of Mudryk, Shved, Zubkov or Petrak, who will be playing across that sort of front line, a bit more space to go into and try and create something. So it'll be interesting to say the least. But honestly, even following that first game where everyone was shocked by the scoreline, I'm still sort of undecided where exactly Shakhtar are going to go, because it is a home game, as you mentioned, but it's a home game in inverted commas because it's in Poland.
How do you think that'll go? Do you think that, I mean, like, obviously they've not played in the Donbass in a long time, but even when they play in Kiev, and going by the information you just supplied to me, at home you would expect them to try and press Celtic, then Celtic would kind of find the spaces that you're talking about. But is it because it's in Poland, it's almost an away game, and they might stand off looking to counter?
Yeah, I probably think they might stick to the same thing. They might try and start off the game trying to control it a bit, might sit back a bit, and then try and go for those pockets, just because I think that's the most effective way they can approach matches at the moment, really, you know, just based on the personnel they've got and sort of the strengths they've got, with all that pace down the wings and a bit of a target man in the box. And on top of that, I mean, I don't think that playing in Warsaw is going to be that detrimental, to be honest. When we're recording this, Shakhtar have released sort of a message on social media that 2,500 tickets are remaining. and I think it's like close to a 30,000 seat stadium or something like that. So it just shows that there is interest from either the Poles, and there's a lot of Ukrainians, like millions of Ukrainians in Poland at the moment, either already economic migrants or diaspora or refugees as well, who I think will all want to go to the game. So yeah, it will be interesting to see.
And I know a lot of Celtic fans have bought tickets as well. Right. Just off the top of your head, because I know you're you don't really know in terms of the season just gone. How do you think they'll line up in terms of formation and personnel? Are we basically looking at that 4-3-3 remaining and the kind of wide guys?
Yeah, definitely. I think they'll probably be more or less the same lineup that started against Leipzig. Right. Maybe in the middle, because they played, I think, Zubkov up front, who's not really a centre forward in the first game. They might play Traore there, and then we might have like Shred and Mudryk on either side, really. I think that's probably how it will go, or with like Shred sort of drifting inside a bit more to try and pick up a few bits and pieces. But yeah, because they've got a league game on the weekend, and I think Traore will probably get some more minutes there, and then back into it. I think he should be ready to come in from the off.
That's interesting. So I'm going to go for it. What's your prediction?
Oh God, I don't know. I think Shred will score. You just know it.
Yeah.
I could it's just see like all the Twitter, etc., all the Celtic Twitter, etc., going into meltdown. It would be. I don't know. I could see Celtic definitely getting a goal, but somehow a bit of Mudryk magic. I'll go 2-1 Shakhtar.
That'll break my heart, but fair do. Right. Just to finish off, just your opinion on. I suppose it's a general question now because you're my Ukrainian expert here.
Yeah.
What is the plan going forward? I mean, is it? I mean, I don't even know what the situation really is in Russia and Ukraine just now. I mean, has it ceased to a point? I mean, the football's back, but there's no fans. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah. So all the matches are going to carry on for the time being without fans.
I mean, what is the planning? Because like you've already hinted that Shakhtar have lost a lot of money and they've lost a lot of the influence with the players and stuff like that. Is it a case of money will start disappearing from Ukrainian football, or is it just waiting for the day that all this finishes and they get back to where they were? Because they were a European big name for a long time. I mean, not that they aren't now, but you know what I mean in terms of.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's been a long time. 2014, I think. Around then, 2012 to 2014 was probably the peak of Ukrainian football since their independence, like properly, where like there was a big, 3-4 teams that were in Europe all the time, attracting big names and all that kind of stuff. That's obviously been on the decline for a number of years. In recent years, just like even Shakhtar have not been performing too well in the Champions League or the Europa League, Dynamo Kiev as well, pretty poor. I mean, in terms of Shakhtar as a club, I don't think they'll be affected too much. They've got their owner is the richest man in Ukraine, so I think if it came to it, they'd probably get some funding from him. Although they try and be as self-sufficient as they possibly can, because in terms of their setup, anyway, next window or next summer they're going to sell Mudryk for 50 million. I'm pretty sure about that. So that's easy. They've got the 30+ million that they're going to get from the Champions League. This campaign, and that'll probably tick them over, and then they'll just carry on recycling that kind of stuff, and we'll see how long it lasts, because obviously it'll last as long as obviously the war goes on. How long that's going to last, who knows, really. But I think for this season, they're definitely all good, no problems there. And yeah, I mean, they've got some exciting talents. A lot of those young players like Bondarenko, Shred, obviously coming back. And some of those under-19s, it's going to, and Hardy Sudakov, who's another quite interesting talent attacking mid. I think they should be okay for the foreseeable, to be honest.
That's excellent. Okay, Andrew, you've covered absolutely everything I've been looking for. You've gave me the heebie-jeebies a wee bit, but I'm sure we'll see what happens. But before we boost off here, you want to sell your wares on social media? Where can people follow you? Because I dare say in the next week, this or next few months, people will be really interested to hear your opinions and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anyone wants to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, at Zorielon Donsk, you can find me there. I'll be tweeting literally non-stop all the time.
I'll link that. I'll link that so people can get you.
Lovely. And then usually my pinned tweet is the latest episode of the podcast that we do, Ukraine Plus Football. So tune in to that if whenever you find out the page.
Amazing, mate. Amazing. Well, first of all, thank you very much for taking your time and doing this. It's been excellent. Really, really informative. Second of all, good luck with everything you're doing. Good luck with all your career and your podcast and stuff. Hope Shakhtar get pumped. And I hope all your family and your friends are all safe and stuff like that. But thank you very much for coming on, Val.
No, thanks a lot, Scott. Good luck next week, but not too much.